You wake up in the cold, not the winds, but the cold that seeps through, felt beneath the skin, into your very breath. A silence too full to be peaceful wraps around you. The air smells of coal ash, sheep's wool, and earth still remembering the night's rain. Beneath your fingers, rough cloth, damp, as if it had soaked up all the fears and hopes you never dared to say aloud. Somewhere, a horse snorts, and its voice echoes in your chest like a distant drum. Today, you will be married. You will leave. You will dissolve into a stranger's name. Today, you will become the one they have been shaping you into your whole life. Without ever asking whether something inside you would survive, you are Alakai Beki, daughter of Genghis Khan. You sit deep inside the yurt, where the faint light of the coal fire becomes breath, not flame. The air is thick, warm but restless. It smells of smoked wool, dry herbs, and time left behind on the walls. The floor beneath you is warm from the layering of many carpets over the years, but you do not feel warm. Because today is the kind of day when the skin notices every wrinkle in the felt, every splinter in the finger, every pause in breath. Before you, in a woven basket, are laid out combs, scissors, brushes made of horsehair, and a clay bowl with oil that melts in the shadows, waiting to touch your head. You don't move. You only listen. The creak of wood at the entrance, the breath of the pack horses outside, the voice of your old nurse, a voice you've known since infancy. It still echoes within you, even when she is silent. Old hands gently touch your hair, not a single sudden movement. They skillfully and calmly unbraid the plaits, untie the thin silk ribbons, as if they are not just untying knots, but unfastening an entire stretch of life. The oil on her fingers is warm. It smells of wormwood and fat, and as she rubs it into your scalp, you feel she is passing something into you, perhaps strength, or memory, or hope, the kind she may have once lost. You catch yourself thinking your hair has become heavier, as if, between the strands, the road already lives, invisible, but inevitable. You don't say it aloud, you don't look at the nurse, but you know, she feels it too. You both know. The journey began long before you leave the threshold. You remember these hands from other times, when blood ran down your knees, and they cleaned the wounds with fresh moss, when their fingers combed your hair and tied warrior knots before your first childhood tournament with wooden swords, when these palms slowly unclenched your fist, where a flat river stone lay, your first talisman. Then you believed the stone could give you strength. Now you believe in neither stones nor omens, only in silence. There is a strange heaviness in your stomach. It isn't fear, not dread, but a held tension, as if the earth beneath hooves has already begun to move, but hasn't yet surrendered itself entirely. It's not pain, but a wave, restrained and slow, like the pulse in your neck. The same wave that passed through your body when you hit the mark for the first time and couldn't believe it was you who did it. Only then you were the one shooting. Now you are the target, not a warrior, but a point of intersection. You feel a gaze, steady, calm, knowing. It does not question, does not doubt. It simply holds you in this moment. And suddenly you understand, you are no longer a girl, but not yet a woman. That comes on the road. It becomes flesh not all at once, but between steps. They hand you a mirror, oval, in a wooden frame burned with your clan symbols. It is warm in your hands, as if it too breathes. You hesitate to look, as if afraid you'll see not yourself, but someone new. In the reflection, you see a face. Yours, and not quite. It already carries weariness, resolve, and a strange depth like those who have passed through something irreversible. You're not sure whether you like this new version of yourself, but you know this: there is no going back. You take the bowl of milk the way one takes a vow, with both hands, carefully, reverently, but without words. It is heavy, warm, smells of salt, honey, and something indefinably familiar, like the breath of a camp in fog. The first sip binds your tongue and leaves a bitterness, as if even the milk knows you are leaving. The second warms your throat. You drink it to the end, knowing the taste will change. Everything will change. Outside the yurt, the sound of hooves, slow, steady, like inevitability. There is no anxiety in that sound, only rhythm, like a heartbeat before a leap. Everything says, it is time. Everything, except you. You don't move right away. Something tightens in your chest, but not from fear, from a sense of what's to come. You know this day is a knot, after which nothing can be untangled. You rise slowly. Your body responds with tight muscles, trembling knees, a silence in your fingers that only comes before parting. Your legs feel foreign, like those of the one you have not yet become, but can no longer avoid becoming. The servants bring the wedding garments. You don't look at them. You simply accept the fabric as one accepts a gift that cannot be refused. It is soft, silky, but cold like early spring water. This is not clothing for peace. It is a shell for the journey, for the gaze, for destiny. You dress in silence, feeling the ribbons tighten across your chest, as if to hold in everything that might spill on the road. In these knots, there is no decoration, only restraint. At the center of the yurt, the fire still flickers. It gives no warmth, but reminds you, you were here. You are part of this circle, this wall, this cloth, this breath, but not forever. The fire will remain, and you will go. You linger at the edge of the shadow, where the air is colder. Here by the wall, you pause for a moment, as if sensing the last drop of something old remains inside, something that will not return. Through the narrow opening, a scent drifts in. Not fresh, not bracing, the smell of wet ash, horse tack, rawhide. This is not home. This is the road. It smells different. It pulls at you like a drawn bow. Not yet shooting, just holding. You turn. The hearth fire continues. Not for you, for those who remain. You are not among them. The nurse steps from the shadows, a bundle in her hands wrapped in old silk. You recognize it instantly. Your first award, a bronze clasp, given for a precise shot. Back then, you didn't understand why it was kept. Now, you do. It's not an ornament. It's proof. A memory of who you might have been. You take the bundle silently. Tuck it into the inner pocket, close to your heart. The metal is cold, but it comes to life with body heat. It doesn't warm. It anchors. From afar, a sharp cry, like a lasso cast across the steppe. They are waiting, but no one rushes you. This moment is yours alone. You close your eyes and see yourself from the side. A girl in silk, with eyes where the child still lives. This is the last day you are together. Tomorrow, only one will remain. You lift the flap, and the light from outside strikes your face. Not harsh, not blinding, but direct and certain, like the gaze of someone who has waited too long. Beyond that band of light lies not just foreign land, but everything you must accept in order not to lose yourself. You take a step, slow and exact, as if that step seals the decision you have walked toward all night. And in that moment, you understand you are stepping out not toward strangers, not toward fate, not toward duty. You are stepping out to meet yourself, the self you have never been but must now become. You stand at the threshold of the yurt, in the narrow shadow cast by the lifted flap, your fingers clutching the edge of a silk ribbon, barely suppressing a tremor. It's not from fear nor from cold. The air is already warmed by the sun, and even the wind blowing in from the open steppe feels lazy, not sharp, like a beast after the hunt. This tremor comes from emptiness. You waited, long, without saying it aloud, without asking the servants, without searching the faces around you, because you already knew. He didn't come. Not in the night, not at dawn, not now. He's not here. Father left before you awoke. He left quietly, without words, without a farewell glance, leaving no trace, no gesture, no shadow in the doorway. The servants say he rode out with the first stars, that the horses were saddled during the night, that the guards spoke in whispers, and no one dared to object. You want to believe he simply couldn't make it. That duty called him away, that the border demanded his presence, that war couldn't wait. But deep inside, in that part of you that always knew before words, you feel the truth. He left because he couldn't stay. He is the great Khan. He never cries, never hesitates, never lingers. Even his silence is a command. And today, he chose not to be there. You remember his hands, heavy, calloused from reins and sword, yet always precise. You remember how he lifted you onto a horse with one arm, how he explained that fear is not weakness, but a weapon when mastered, how he looked at you the first time you stood in fighting stance. Then he said nothing, but his eyes said everything. Now there are no eyes, no silence, only the empty space where he should have been. You hear the bustle of women behind you. Someone is folding fabric, someone else embroidering at the last minute. Your mother doesn't come out. She doesn't speak. She knows, just as you do. And the silence becomes even heavier. It's no longer between you. It lives inside. You step from the shadow and look into the distance. Down the road he took. No tracks. The wind erased them before sunrise. You see only the horizon, straight and stubborn like a word that was never spoken. And then you lower your gaze and return inward. Because even if he didn't come, you still go. Even if he turned away, you are still his blood. Even if his voice is gone, his steps still echo within you. You return to the yurt, as if into a cave filled with muffled breaths of women, the heavy scent of dried herbs, and a silence so thick it clings to the walls like the shadow of a forgotten light. Everything inside feels scorched by time. Every fold of fabric, every muted footstep on the felt floor, every gaze lowered not out of courtesy, but from trying to hide what everyone knows. He didn't come and won't. One woman steps closer, and you feel her fingers, cool and steady, like the hands of a healer who always finds the source of pain, gently smooth a fold on your belt. Not out of need, but as a gesture of comfort, wordless but anchoring, capable of holding someone back from falling. She doesn't meet your eyes, doesn't ask, says nothing unnecessary, but her presence holds a quiet care wrapped in routine, familiar and thus safe. When they hand you a cup of herbal brew, hot, astringent, full of the scent of wormwood, rose, and tiny blue petals whose name you never knew, you take it with both hands, like you once held a bowl of milk in the first spring days. You bring it to your lips without looking away from the walls, and take a sip, the bitterness spreading across your palate like the warmth of a loss. You drink because you must, because the taste of sorrow is part of the rite, because bitterness is not weakness, but memory that cannot be refused, even when forgetting seems easier. The nurse returns with a narrow strip of fabric, faded with age, but carefully adorned with threads and symbols of your lineage. She ties it across your forehead, just as she did many years ago, when you played at being Little Khan and commanded your brothers to bow before you, and you suddenly feel that in this gesture is not only affection, but a silent passing of authority from the one who knew you since infancy to the one you're becoming and can no longer avoid becoming. "It's not your fault," she says, barely above a whisper, her voice muted like old silk. "He didn't leave you. He left himself." You don't answer, because the words are stuck somewhere deep, where memory crosses with pride. Two truths live inside you at once. One cold, like the steel of the blade that always hung at his side, and the other warm but fragile, like a silk thread stretched between you and childhood. You don't know which will win, but you know with piercing clarity, now you must become your own father. The one who speaks, who protects, even when no one listens. From a corner comes the creak of a wooden chest opening, sounding like your grandfather's voice when he last told the story of the cartoon mothers who ruled lands in the absence of their husbands. Inside are wedding gifts, bright scarves with fertility symbols, ritual knives with carved handles, boxes of incense, tiny scrolls of prayers and amulets, arranged with ritual care where every detail has weight and meaning. They are not possessions, but fragments of your future self. Fragments of a home where you'll be a stranger, of a family you do not yet know. Among all the glittering things, you notice a silver bracelet, heavy, solid, adorned with the eagle of your clan. You recognize it instantly. As a child, you saw it on your father's wrist when he bent over campaign maps. You didn't know it was kept. You didn't know he had left it for you. Your hands tremble as you fasten it. The metal feels foreign at first, too cold, but within a moment it becomes part of your skin, as if it had always been there. In this object is not just memory. It's not an ornament. It is proof. He did think of you. "He watched you sleep before he left," says one of the women. Her voice is quiet but strikes like a blow to the heart. "I saw him. He stood there for a long time, didn't move, then simply turned and went, quickly." You close your eyes and see that moment, not because you want to, but because you cannot help it. You see his shadow filling the doorway, how he, without taking a step forward, still stood closer than anyone else. Maybe he couldn't stay, but that night he had been near, watching you, silently saying goodbye in the only way he knew. Without words, without touch, without weakness, but with the restrained gravity where the whole truth of his love lay. You don't let yourself cry, because you know, here, in this place and on this day, there is no room for tears. Inside you, a string is drawn taut, firm, steady, unshaken, like a bow ready to fire. You are no longer the girl who waited for warmth and soft words of comfort. Now you are the continuation of history's path, carrying not only memory, but power. You are not merely walking the road. You are the road. When the servants call you, you're already standing, because you understand this day does not belong to you. It belongs to all who made you who you are. It belongs to the step you must take, even if your heart wishes to stay. You pass the hearth, and only now do you notice the fire is out. Only embers remain. Heat remains. And that is enough to remember. He was here. You never called him simply father. The word felt too narrow, too domestic for who he truly was. In your thoughts, hesitant, reserved, as if approaching a sacred thing, you called him what everyone else did, my Khan. Not because you were told to, but because there was no other way. That name echoed within you like hoofbeats on stone, like fire burning through the night. In it lived order and fear, pride and pain. He wasn't part of the family. He was the spine of the clan, the peak of the world, the tip of the blade on which not only your fate balanced, but the fate of hundreds. To call him anything less would diminish his greatness, and you dared not. You remembered how, at 10 years old, he summoned you. No gestures, no tenderness, just a look. "You are my daughter. That means you do not belong to yourself," he said, gazing off to the side, as though through you. No more words were spoken. None were needed. You understood the rest yourself. From that day, you knew your life was not your own. It was the continuation of his will, and you had to be strong, not for yourself, but for those who would look at you as his voice spoken into the future. You had run to the tent, buried your face in a blanket, and cried as if clinging to salvation. But from then on, you learned. You learned to be not just his daughter, but a living legacy of his name. You learned to stand when you wanted to collapse, to listen when your heart begged to scream. You had known from the morning he would not come, not because he forgot, and not because he didn't love you. It wasn't indifference. It wasn't abandonment. It was his greatness that forbade him from being simply a father on a day when he still had to be the Khan. You hadn't seen him since dawn. He wasn't by the entrance to the tent, nor among the gathered, not even among the distant silhouettes flickering behind the backs of the warriors. No trace of his figure, no glint of his cloak in the wind, no muted thud of his steps on the boards, nothing. But you didn't look for him, didn't turn your head, didn't wait. You simply knew he would not come, because he could not afford the luxury of presence. He could not become just a man where he was the symbol of command. You understood. If he had come, if he had spoken, if he had touched you, everything would have changed. It would have become too personal. And your marriage had no right to be personal. It was not forged for love or happiness. It was an alliance needed for peace. A pact sealed not by bloodlines, but by borders and oaths. You did not blame him. You weren't even angry. But your body, your breath, your spine, they remembered. They remembered his hand as he taught you to hold the reins. His voice, never gentle, but clear and firm. The kind that made you feel safe even in the darkest nights. The way he looked at you, rarely, but truly, as if he saw not just a daughter, but a reflection of the future he had forged. He loved you, but not with quiet, simple love. His love avoided words. It lived in actions, in silence, in the way he kept distance, so you wouldn't grow weak. You knew, the stronger his feeling, the farther he stepped back. He taught you not to be weak. He did it harshly, but honestly. Today you understood the full meaning of his words. He didn't come, not because he didn't care, but because his presence would have turned you back into a child. And he knew, on this day, you could no longer be a child. You were a woman of the clan, a woman seal sent to seal a union vital to an entire empire. You knew this alliance wasn't just a marriage. It was a general's transaction. Your step, his command. That's why you didn't cry. You stood straight. You accepted. You knew even if he was far away, he watched. Even if he was silent, he remembered. Even if he wasn't near, you still carried his fire. You did not see him, but it felt as if he walked behind you, silent as the steppe wind. His silence echoed in every gaze, in the way the shamaness looked through you as if reading signs, in the way warriors lowered their eyes as if acknowledging his strength in you. His will was in every obstacle, every step, every pause where weakness might have lived. He wasn't beside you, he was within you, in how you held yourself, in how you walked. You knew where he stood that day, there on the distant hill, where the entire encampment could be seen as if on a palm. The tents, the smoke of fires, your yurt. He stood alone, as always, slightly apart from the world he had built. He did not look with a father's eyes, but with the eyes of a Khan, passing on to you part of his power, his resolve, and his silence. Along with strength, he gave you pain, not the kind that knocks you down, but the kind you rise with, the kind that hardens from within and becomes armor beneath the skin. And you felt he would not leave until he saw whether you would endure. You stand on the threshold between inside and outside, between the yurt and the light, between who you were and who you must become, and you feel how the fabric on your body pulls just slightly, as if trying to hold you back for one last moment before the final step is taken. A step forward is not just a movement of the body, but a crossing of a boundary, beyond which begins a different version of you. Not a daughter, not a guest in her own home, not a voice behind others, but a woman destined to become part of a foreign land and foreign blood. Outside it is bright but not hot. The sun slices through space like a blade, cold, precise, merciless. The air is clear, thin, nearly weightless, like ice about to crack underfoot. Through the layers of your clothing, you feel it not as comfort, but as a reminder. There is no place for warmth in this day. The wind touches you cautiously, as if unsure whether it should reach someone who still belongs to no one. You walk without pause, breathing steadily, but each step echoes in your body with memories. Your father's voice, your brother's laughter, the smell of smoked milk, the twang of a bowstring pulled to a click. People have gathered outside the yurt. Not a crowd, not guests, not friends, but participants in a rite where everything is already known. Their faces are calm, hands folded, shoulders motionless. They watch as one watches morning fog in the steppe, without words, with respect, and without the right to interfere. No smiles, no applause, no greetings, only gazes. You walk past them, spine straight, eyes unturned, even when everything inside you tightens, as if a bird lives in your chest and someone forgot to open his cage. Your lips show neither smile nor tremble. You know this is your duty. This is the face of your lineage. This is the mask you place on yourself, so you won't break in front of those who will remember your every move. The groom is already waiting. His face expresses neither disgust nor delight, only a steady, heavy shadow. He is not taller than you, not old nor young, not handsome nor ugly. He is a man placed next to you by your father's will, not fate's. His hands are clasped behind his back, his legs spaced like a warrior in parade. He takes no step, bows no head, just stands, like a stallion taught to wait, not charge. You know almost nothing about him, hadn't even heard his name until recently. They told you he is honest, he knows how to wield a sword. He doesn't drink or yell at servants. That is all you know. That is all you are allowed to know. No more is granted. No more is required. The shamaness steps forward. Her face is a net of wrinkles, like a map of lived life, but her voice is straight, strong, spine stiffening. She asks no questions, she declares. Names, clans, symbols, numbers ring out. Her speech falls like rain on the taut skin of the yurt. Steady, stubborn, indifferent to your thoughts. You stand straight, as if your back is an arrow frozen mid-flight. You do not think. You listen, but you hear not the words, only their weight, because this union happened long before this day. Today is merely the moment it is spoken aloud. You catch yourself standing too still, not from fear, not from cold, but because any movement in this ritual feels excessive, as if every gesture of yours had already been written long ago in an ancient script, repeated again and again, with only names and faces changed. The wind brushes the edge of your sleeve, and you hear the faint rustle of fabric. Almost a lament, almost a voice not allowed to speak. The shamaness brings forth a bundle of herbs, dried roots, juniper branches, crushed grass, whose bitterness is felt even before the smoke touches skin. She smokes you with a slow ring of smoke, and you inhale it, as if drawing into yourself a piece of the land to which you are now tied not only by body, but by name. The scent is thick and sharp, like honey into which someone has drowned embers. You blink because the smoke tickles your eyes, but there will be no tears, not permitted, not proper, not allowed. When the shamaness asks for your hands, you extend yours almost with effort, not because you don't want to, but because something deep within resists this touch. His palm is warmer than expected, and dry rough like bark cracked by the sun. He holds it without pressure, without softness, not with dominance, not with tenderness, but just as one holds an object meant for ritual. In this touch, there is no tremble, no excitement, and no life. And you understand. He, too, was taught this. To be calm, to be stone, to be form without content. You stand like two statues, and the shamaness ties a silk ribbon to your wrists, red as blood, dense as silence. The knot is firm, precise, caring, neither violent nor weak. This is not a question. This is a statement. You are now bound. Even if in this moment each of you thinks only of yourselves. Suddenly, within you appears not emptiness, not fear, not pain, but a strange clarity, as if you had walked long through fog, and now, before you, there is not a path, but a stone. It must be crossed. It cannot be avoided. And you understand. You don't know where this path will lead, but you know for certain that to stand still is to forget how to walk. The servants bring a bowl, ancient, carved from wood, rimmed with bone, etched with symbols of sky, water, and family. It passes from hand to hand, and when it reaches you, you look into its contents. The liquid is clear, bright, like a gaze you will never receive. You raise the bowl to your lips and take a sip, not timidly, but precisely, like an act. The taste bites at the root of your tongue, but you do not grimace. You are used to bitterness, the kind that does not heal but merely reminds you that you are alive. The groom drinks after you, eyes downcast. It is done. It is finished. You do not feel joy. You do not feel pain. Only a strange, voiceless fullness, like the steppe at night, when neither wind nor creature stirs the air, and you realize, from this day forward, silence will be a part of you. When the ribbon is untied, you are still standing just as before. Around you, too many people, too few words. Someone begins to sing, a low voice, drawn out, without words, only sound, stretched like a thread over an abyss. This song is not about you. It is about the land, the union, the duty meant to last longer than one heart. You turn and begin to move, step by step, slowly, across a carpet beneath which lies earth, soft and dense like flesh. No one leads you. You walk alone. And everyone who watches sees only your back, straight, taut like a blade. No one knows how your heart beats, and no one will ask. You pass your mother. She stands slightly aside, apart from the rest. Neither before nor now has she approached, spoken a word, or given a sign. But now she looks, directly, calmly, deeply. And in that gaze, for the first time today, You feel something inside you tighten so hard it steals your breath. She nods barely, but in that nod is everything you waited to hear: recognition, respect, understanding. In that nod, agreement, silent, restrained, resolute. You have done it. And you walk on, not because you don't want to stop, but because now you cannot. You sit on the floor, legs crossed on a soft rug embroidered by the elder women of your clan many years ago, when no one yet knew for whom it would be laid out on this day. Beneath your palms is fine wool, slightly matted, still holding the warmth of the hands and the voices that silently stitched it together in the evenings. Before you stands a low wooden table, not festive, not adorned with golden bowls or rice like among the nobles of the Chinese lands, but simple, worn by time, smelling of cedar and home-fermented dough. The food is laid out without ceremony, yet there is power in that too, like in a woman who does not raise her voice, but rules the household with her gaze. On the tray, pieces of boiled meat, fresh milk in a clay cup, hot flatbreads, soft and slightly burnt around the edges, as if the baker was nervous. Scattered between the dishes are grains of wheat, not for decoration, but as a symbol of fertility, that your road may be full, even if your heart remains hungry. You don't touch the food right away. First, you listen to the sound of spoons gliding against the bowls, someone slowly pouring kumis, the women whispering in the corner, afraid to disturb the silence that still allows breath. This is not a feast. This is a farewell, and no one wants it to sound loud. Beside you are your brothers. They say nothing, though their presence feels like warmth, dense, heavy, reliable, like a felt cloak on a cold night. Your eldest brother holds a cup in both hands, and you see the vein pulsing on his wrist, tense, as if a voice is beating inside him that he cannot speak. The middle one stares into the fire, and his eyes reflect the flames as if they burn with a memory he is not ready to release. The youngest traces his finger along the edge of the wooden board, as if carving a word he cannot speak aloud. No one tells you to eat, but your mother gently moves a bowl closer to you, and you take a flatbread, warm, slightly damp, and feel the steam rising from it, carrying the scent of flour, smoke, and comfort. This scent you will remember all your life, because this is the last time bread is shared with those who saw you grow. You take a small bite, and the dough stretches like the road you did not choose, but accepted. It is soft, slightly sour, and suddenly you recall how once you tried to bake yourself, and it failed, and the nanny laughed until you both ate the misshapen, blackened loaf with such joy, as if it were a gift from the heavens. You chew slowly, not because you want to savor the taste, but because you don't want to swallow, because you know, when the last piece goes down, it will be over. You do not speak, you do not cry, you do not smile, but inside, all of it is happening at once, as if a well opened in your chest, into which fell joy, fear, regret, and pride all at once. And you don't know which feeling will surface first if anyone dares speak out of turn. Your mother lifts a bowl and offers it to you with both hands. You take it as custom demands, with a lowered head, without letting your fingers touch hers. Only the bowl, only the moment. Inside, broth. Simple, like your life up until today. But within that simplicity, a deep richness, a fatty shimmer on the surface, the scent of bones boiled long and slow, as if time itself had offered its final drops. You bring it to your lips, and the warmth burns not outside, but inside, as if in that moment you allowed yourself to feel that everything truly is ending. not like a fairy tale where the heroine leaves for a new kingdom, but like life, where behind the door there is simply another home, another fire, other voices. As you drink, your eyes close for a moment, and in that grey flicker behind your eyelids, you clearly see a morning when you ran barefoot through the grass, and your father laughed, tossing a bunch of flowers at you. You were covered in pollen and didn't know that memory knows how to hide happiness until the hour it is most needed, like a golden needle tucked into the folds of an old blanket. Silence again. Only breath. Only the creak of wood. No one hurries you, but you feel time leaning in, watching, waiting to see if anyone will say too much or too little. And then your mother speaks. Her voice, not loud, but piercing. Not like a speech, like a spell. You were born strong, but strength is not what holds a sword. It is what holds the heart when it wants to run. You will go to a place where no one will say your name with a child's softness, where no one will remember how you sang in the dark, afraid to sleep. But you will take yourself with you, entirely. Leave nothing here. Lose nothing there. These words are not a farewell. They are a blessing, a recognition. What a mother says to her daughter only once. In the moment she lets her go completely. You nod, slowly. Not because you understand everything, but because you want her to know. You heard her, to the very depths, to the place where tears are born but do not fall. Your brothers rise, one by one, wordless. They do not embrace you, do not take your hands, but you feel their shadows grow firmer. They will remember, not because you left, but because you are part of their blood. When all is eaten and drunk, your mother hands you the last piece of bread, small, round. It is not for eating, it is for the road. It is hidden in a pocket. It will be with you, like the smell of home, like proof that you were a bride, but remain a daughter. You rise, silently, no thoughts in your head, only a feeling, as if a bird had settled in your belly. Not for singing, for flight. You don't remember how you left the yurt. Your body moves on its own, as if woven from the threads of a ritual, and each step you take, on the carpet, on the ground, into the crisp morning frost, is not a choice, but a continuation of a song begun long before you. The air is cold and sharp, like a freshly snapped twig. It scrapes your lips, making your breath audible, and it seems even your own exhale sounds foreign, like the voice of someone you haven't heard in years. The sky is dull grey, like the wool of an old sheep, and the horizon hasn't yet decided if it will be clear or clouded. A light mist lies over the earth, hiding the conical shadows of people standing at the camp's edge. They say nothing. No one calls out. No one waves. They just watch, as if waiting for you to cross that final line between once was and no longer. A horse waits for you at the gate, tall, with a thick mane and a sharp gaze like the wind's. It's not yours, but there's something in its eyes that feels like home. Perhaps patience, perhaps the quiet attentiveness animals possess when they sense your feelings before you understand them. You touch its withers, and the fur beneath your hand is warm, slightly damp with frost. It doesn't pull away. It knows you are now part of its journey, and it of yours. Your husband is already mounted. He doesn't look at you directly, but you notice him shifting slightly in the saddle, making space, as if, despite the strangeness, he acknowledges your presence, not as a wife, but as a companion. For now, without words, you mount the horse. The seat is warm from the sheepskin padding, but beneath it lies the hard truth of the road. You adjust your cloak, tighten the strap on your boot, as you've done 100 times, and suddenly it all feels like the end of childhood. The last time you do this as a daughter, a sister, a girl from the yurt. Beyond this, you are someone else. The caravan begins to move, slowly, like a river waking in spring. The first steps are a dull thud of hooves on soil where roots still sleep. Then a steady rhythm takes over, as if the earth itself starts to breathe in time. Around you are guards, servants, pack horses, but you feel only yourself and this horse, and the back ahead of you. You don't look back, not out of pride, but because if you do, you might cling. And you don't want to be a torn leaf, tossed between past and future. You want to be the wind, or at least a branch that bends but does not break. With each step, the wind seems to grow stronger, more probing and persistent. It pulls at your cheeks, creeps beneath your collar, stirs your hair like it's testing your resolve. But you don't feel cold, not because your body's numb, but because inside burns a focused, contained heat. It seeks no shelter, asks no pity, because you know the road is not the enemy. It doesn't want to break you. It wants to see if you can endure. The road is not a test of strength. It is a test of meaning. And you walk it because your meaning is stronger than any shield. Even if today you don't yet know where it leads, you know this: there is no way back. You don't know how much time has passed. The day hasn't bloomed, but darkness has settled like morning frost, receding beneath your steps. The campfire's scent, smoky, spicy, a little greasy, has long faded, like a piece of home you can no longer chase. The trail winds past hills still brushed with light snow. White clings shyly to last year's grass. A fox flits past, slender, red, alert. She pauses a moment, as if noticing you, her eyes glinting in the dim dawn. You meet her gaze. She isn't afraid. She simply knows you are like her now, walking alone, even among others. The pack horses clatter with tack. The heavy bags creak as if complaining about the journey. One of the riders veers off, checking saddle fastenings. Everything happens without words, as if language remained in another life, and now only rhythm, motion, and road remain. You feel the horse beneath you working muscles tensing and releasing, back springing with every stride, breath hot like steam from soup on a winter morning. This closeness to the animal and earth keeps you from drowning in thought. You grip the saddle horn and feel the trembling hide beneath your fingers. Alive, strong, real. There is strange comfort in this, that something in this day still answers you with warmth. Your husband rides ahead. You still don't know what his voice sounds like when he's not giving orders. You don't know what he thinks. His back is straight as a spear shaft. His movements are measured, as if conserving strength like water in a skin. Not for you, not for the journey, but for something yet unseen. You remember how your mother said, the first journey begins in silence. Not out of fear, but respect. Because the road is alive, it hears, feels, remembers. And if you speak before it does, it may not accept you. So you must walk quietly, let your steps become a prayer, and the wind your ally. And you do, without words, so as not to disturb the world you enter not as a guest, but as part of its breath. Only thoughts move within, like shadows in a silk tent. You recall your nurse's face, her scent, sour milk, spice, and a trace of lavender. Her hands, broad, roughened, always warm. You remember your father, not sharply, but as through water, blurred like a reflection in a winter river. His silhouette, his voice, his tale of how he first saw the step and knew it would be his home. You begin to understand. A journey is not a distance. It is the rupture between who you were and who you are yet to become. The hills recede, the land flattens, and the wind loosens your hair, pulling a strand free. You don't fix it. Let it be. Let your face meet the sky. Let this step be whole. Somewhere in the distance, the sun rises, pale as morning milk, yet still alive. And in its light, you suddenly understand you are not afraid. You just don't know how long this in-between will last. You don't notice when everything changes, the landscape, the air, the sensation beneath your skin, as if morning itself becomes different, more resonant, denser, attentive. You are already far from the yurt, far from voices that knew your name since birth. Now each step is on land that doesn't speak your name aloud. Its language is different. Its wind smells different, not of hearth and fat, but of something sharp, dusty, as if even its grass distrusts outsiders. You ride slightly behind, as is proper, as is expected, as must be in the eyes of silent watchers. No one says this rule aloud, but you feel it in every inch between you and him, in the invisible line separating you both. He doesn't speak to you, doesn't glance over his shoulder. Only now and then he signals to the escort or adjusts his reins, as if making sure everything is under control, as if this journey is another battle he must fight in silence. Yet you feel his presence keenly, not as heat, but as storm tension in the air. Taut, heavy, undeniable. His silence carries the weight of years. His back is carved from wars and choices, and you know, with chilling clarity, that you are now written into that history, not in the margins, but at its center. The path narrows into a shallow ravine, the slopes pressing closer, stones under hooves ringing sharp and clear. For a moment, it seems the whole world, riders, horses, yourself, has entered a stone bowl filled with sound, where everything stills. And in that instant, among the echoes, he turns his head for the first time. There is no curiosity in his gaze, no cold calculation, only a quick, precise, almost martial squint, as if he's not looking at a woman, but a blade freshly drawn, judging. Is the metal sound? Will it hold? But even in that sparse assessment, there is no mockery, no rejection, only a silent question. Do you have the right to be here? You don't look away, don't lower your head. On the contrary, you straighten your back and lift your chin slightly above what is allowed, sending not a challenge, but a sign. You are not a guest here. You have come to stand as an equal, and you feel him see it. His eyes pause for a moment, then he nods, barely, imperceptibly, like a warrior making a mental note. Seen, acknowledged, recorded. And that small gesture is enough for the air around to shiver, for the space to shift slightly, as if fate, long walking beside you, now stands directly at your side. He turns forward again, looks ahead, and you see only his back and hear only silence. But everything has changed. You are not the one who left the camp this morning. You are now the one who has been seen, who has become part of another life, another path. With this realization comes a feeling not of relief or joy, but of unsettling clarity, as if you, like a heavy object, were placed on a scale, and someone has begun to measure if you are strong enough to endure what lies ahead. You continue riding, feeling each of the horse's steps not with your legs, but your blood, as if its rhythm echoes your pulse. Though your hands firmly grip the reins within you, a subtle tremor, not of fear, but of tension, that very moment before an arrow is released, when the bowstring is drawn tight, but not yet loosed. Ahead opens a plain, vast, rolling, vanishing into light and wind, where dry grass races like frightened beasts driven by the earth's deep breath. Somewhere beyond that shimmering, swaying horizon waits what will now be called your home. The plain seems endless, but here you feel for the first time not just the approach of a road, but the beginning of a new life. The wind rises, catches your cloak, tugging it as if trying to rip the past from your shoulders. You don't resist. You simply brush a strand of hair from your face and press your knees tighter to the horse's sides. On the horizon, silhouettes appear, a group of riders coming toward you, their spears sharp as morning shadows, furs fluttering in the wind. One holds a banner, not of war, but of marriage, in the colors of the new land, bearing its symbol, its fate. This is not a greeting. This is a first reception, the first trial of your new role. Your back straightens again. Your heart doesn't race, but beats in your throat. You know they will look at you now, assess you, measure you against expectations. You feel your husband glance at you again. He doesn't linger, but you know. He has looked more than once, and it will not be the last. He rides closer. His voice says nothing, but everything in his movement speaks. They are waiting, and you must hold yourself upright. A reminder, brief as a step. You nod, not because you agree, but because this is the game you were written into from birth. The game where you must be worthy. The horses draw near. One of the elder riders, thick-bearded with weary eyes, approaches your husband and says something in a tongue you do not yet know. He replies briefly, and the elder turns to you. His gaze, warm, almost fatherly, holds no softness, only acceptance, or its absence. You greet him with a slight nod. He returns it. Then you hear it. Your name, Alakai, soft but clear, like a hoof striking earth. For the first time, you hear it in another language, with a foreign accent. It sounds shorter, heavier, wind-cut, as if you yourself have become shorter, denser, sharper. The name is no longer yours. It is now part of a new clan, a new silence, a new country you have yet to know. The caravan moves on. Now you ride together, not just in body, but as the merging of two fates. And somewhere deep inside you, a strange feeling rises. Not fear, not anxiety, but a fine-tipped challenge. What if you do succeed? What if you don't dissolve in this name, but make it echo with a new sound? You don't smile. Your face remains calm. But you understand now. You are no guest in this life. You are part of it. You arrive at the camp when the sun no longer warms, but hangs above the earth like a dull copper mirror. The air is still. Everything seems frozen, as if time itself has stopped to watch you cross the border of your past life. The horde sprawls across a dry plateau, as if born of the wind itself. The yurts stand in a wide semicircle, each facing south as tradition dictates. They don't appear foreign or welcoming. They simply exist, like mountains or sky. Between them, children, goats, silence. A silence not empty, but full of watching. You ride slowly, as though the very air restrains your movement. Your hands tremble on the reins, not from fear, but from something deeper. The knowledge that everything will be different now. Even the wind is different here. It doesn't speak, it watches. It tugs at the edges of your clothing as if testing whether your old skin will come off. The yurt you are to enter is larger than the rest. Its white felt has been specially bleached to shine like snow in winter. Above the entrance is a dark embroidered band with the clan symbol, a sign that must now become yours. But it does not yet echo inside you. It does not call. It watches. It waits. A woman stands at the entrance, her head covered with a heavy scarf. Her face is carved from ash, calm, dark, unmoving. She neither bows nor speaks. She merely steps aside, allowing you to pass, not as a guest, but as one who must take her place. You slide from the horse, slowly, as if not to disturb the earth. Your feet touch the ground, and suddenly you feel this is not your land. It is not hostile, but it is not glad. It merely watches, like stone, in which ancient memory lives. You enter the yurt, your step muffled by felt. The space inside is round, as if time itself here knows no corners. The central hearth is cold, but you feel that flames burned there recently. The air carries the scent of milk, smoke, and burnt wormwood. The dome above is blackened with soot, the traces of lives that came before you. Around you, low wooden chests, the walls covered with patterned rugs and harnesses. Along the sides, dark furs and bound bundles. This is not a home. This is the heart of nomadic land, gathered into a circle into which you are now woven, like a thread in a pattern, not yet drawn tight. You are left alone. Everything you brought seems too light for the weight of this silence. Still, you take out a pair of bone-carved sheaths your sister made, and a cloth pressed with flower petals. You do not place them as possessions. You leave them like proof. You have arrived. You exist. You still remember. Behind you, movement stirs. You turn. Your husband stands at the entrance, not crossing the threshold. His silhouette is cut from the sun. He says nothing. And in that silence is everything. The land he rules, the home he did not gift you, but where you must now be. He does not offer a hand, does not say your name. He simply watches, as one watches a rider who returned not by invitation, but by duty. You lower your eyes. He turns and walks away. The curtain at the entrance sways and fades like breath. The yurt breathes slowly. The space begins to accept you, but not quickly. It waits, as if expecting you to offer something more than objects. Yourself, your resilience, your willingness to stay. Later, when the fire is lit again, and the walls come alive with whispers of smoke, you feel the space soften, not welcoming, but no longer pushing you away. You do not know who will bring food, who will speak the first word. In the horde, no one asks if you are ready. In the horde, they watch if you can endure in silence. You step outside into the outer circle. Beyond the neighboring yurt, the same wind, the same faces. The woman appears again, indicating with her gaze. There, by a low table, wooden bowls already wait. You sit, not as mistress, not as bride, but as part of the motion. The food is simple. Boiled meat, noodles, sour milk with salt. No sweets, no refinement, but everything is full of strength. You eat in silence, feeling how each spoonful sinks into your body, not feeding you, but laying a new stone in your foundation. The woman across from you does not eat. She observes. Her face holds neither cruelty nor warmth, only a straight edge, to accept or not to accept. And you understand, not in words but in skin, that here everything is earned in silence. The air is thick like wool, the space beside you, like a clenched fist. All that remains unsaid already lives here, in the flickers of firelight, in the curve of bowls, in the silence. Your presence is not yet part of the ritual, but it is already part of the watching. Later, returning to the yurt, you see a piece of cloth on a chest. Hand embroidery, crooked but done with effort. This is not a gift. This is a test, or a sign that you have been seen. You touch the cloth. It smells of home, but not your home. You do not know who left it, but you know why. It is an invitation, or a warning. You lie down on the felt. The heavy blanket smells of horses and smoke. You turn to your side, eyes almost closed, when a sound reaches you, quiet, barely audible. Somewhere beyond the wall, a mooring kur begins to play, a horsehead fiddle. The melody is unfamiliar, but something in it feels known, not in words, not in memory, but in rhythm, as if someone you do not yet know is whispering their story to you. You listen, unmoving, and with that foreign music in your chest, you fall asleep. You don't wake from noise, but from presence, something new, vast, and irreversible. The air inside the yurt is still, yet it breathes something ancient, not smoke and wool, but history itself, the one you've now been inscribed into, like a letter in a will. You don't search for familiar shapes. You know nothing from the past remains here, and it won't. All that was left behind in the saddle, on the road, in the last glance from your mother. Now, you are alone. Not as a prisoner, not as an exile, but as a branch transplanted into new soil. And you have taken root. You rise slowly, like a warrior rising before battle. Your body is heavy, but inside, there is no fear, no doubt. Only a steady, clear knowing. You are not here by accident. You were sent. Your name now echoes in a different land, and this land must learn its strength. You touch the floor dense as a well-trodden path, yielding like earth under a hoof. In every curve of the yurt is the circle of a closed world, in which you are now the center, but not the mistress. Not yet, for now, just the point from which everything begins. You remember your father. His gaze did not warm, it tempered. His words didn't comfort. They left a mark, like a blade on skin. He never spoke of love, he spoke of duty. You are the blood that will unite lands that dare not meet otherwise. He didn't say it with tenderness, he said it with belief. And you carry that belief like fire in your palms, carefully but tightly. Here, no one will wait for you. They will watch, not your face, your actions, not your walk, your shadow. You'll know if you're accepted not by words, but by how the curtain stirs at the entrance, how the fire shares its warmth, how a woman sits by the wall, closer or further. You step outside, and the morning greets you not with light, but with weight. Cold touches your cheeks, but doesn't sink in. You remember how your father said, "A strong woman is not the one who is respected. She is the one whose silence is louder than thunder, and whose gaze makes eyes drop." You investigate the distance. No road, no home, only movement. The men are already somewhere in the saddle. The women at the hearths. You are in between. Between voices, between names, between past and future. And no one will explain where your place is, because you must make it yourself. You sit near the yurt, not hiding, but not demanding attention. The wind brushes your face, as if testing you. Will you recognize it? This is not the wind from your father's camp. It's different, drier, harsher. But you don't look away. You are not here to be loved. You are here to be needed. In your mind, your father's voice. When you are silent, let your silence carry your power. When you speak, let the word be a strike. He taught you to be a weapon. But now you know you must become a blade unseen until it touches the throat. You remember your sisters, their voices, their scents, their hands. They stayed there in another yurt, another life. And you are here, like the breath of your clan, like an arrow shot into the night, not to return, but to land. You feel the ground begin to hear your steps, the air to remember your breath, the space to mark your presence. It is not acceptance yet. It is the threshold. And you do not ask for a sign. You are the sign. You sit at the edge of the bedding, not noticing the cold, The blanket has slipped from your shoulders, but you don't pull it up. Your body shivers, but your thoughts burn. They are like snowbirds, landing one by one quietly on your shoulders and staying. What comes next? What lies beyond this yurt's threshold? Will this land become yours, or stay foreign even after years? Will there be a home here, or just a page history will one day turn? You don't know what awaits in this camp. Don't know if these people will accept you, not by name, but by heart. But you know one thing, you cannot be weak. You have no right, not by blood, not by the choice made for you. You remember your father, not his words. He wasn't generous with them. You remember his gaze. In it, he didn't see you. He saw what you must become. He looked through you, as though behind your face he saw something more. A boundary, an alliance, a decision. He never called you tenderly, never held you gently like mothers do with infants. But it wasn't coldness. It was belief. Harsh, searing, like steel in a forge. He expected not obedience, but character. Not a decoration of the clan, but its continuation. Not one who tends the hearth, but one who holds the front. He wanted you to be not a voice, but a meaning. Not a reflection of his glory, but its future. He didn't expect tears. He knew you would stand when others fell. He didn't expect beauty. He knew your mind would be sharp as an arrowhead. He didn't expect love. He knew your loyalty would be stronger than any marriage vow. You were not just a daughter to him. You were a bridge meant to unite two shores, his power and his vision. You had to take root here, as a mark, as a banner, as a living symbol of alliance. If you succeed, his empire would grow stronger. If they accept you, he would be closer to his goal. If you remain steadfast, other tribes would bow their heads. He was a Khan. He had to look ahead, where borders are born, and you were one of them. In his silence lived a map, not drawn, but carved from destinies. He entrusted you not with feelings, but with fate. He never doubted you would endure, because you are his flesh, his blood, because the same will flow through you, the one that once raised tribes to their feet and made the sky hear a name it had never known. You don't ask him for love. You know it was already given to you, in his trust. You are Alakai Beki, daughter of Genghis Khan. You do not remember a day when you were simply a child. There was no morning when you were awakened for play, not duty. From the moment your fingers first grasped the hilt of a wooden sword, you knew. Your body did not belong to you. It was part of the clan. Its bones were an oath, its skin a treaty, its breath a pact. Other girls ran barefoot through the grass, braided ribbons into their hair, and laughed. You sat in the dusty dimness of your father's tent, heavy with the scent of ink, sweat, and old saddles. There were no stories told there, only borders discussed. No dreams drawn, only maps. You listened, you memorized, you absorbed. Not fables, but power. Not tenderness, but duty. Your childhood smelled of hot ashes, horse sweat, and dried blood. Those scents were bitter, but honest. They taught you, soft things break, so do not be soft. When your father first looked at you, not as a child, but as a piece in the great political game of empire, you understood you were no longer merely a daughter. You were part of his strategy. He never asked if you wished to marry the Prince of the Onguts. He knew you would understand. This union was not a marriage. It was a shield thrust toward the border, a seal binding two peoples. You arrived in the Ongut camp not as a bride, but as the Khan's daughter. You became the wife of a stranger to become kin to a strange land. You wore veils of restraint and garments of dignity, spoke evenly, but looked with the eyes of empire. In their tents, you were not a guest, but an overseer, not a wife, but a representative of the center. No one told you that being a wife in foreign lands meant standing always on thin ice. There could be no misstep. Eyes were always watching, weighing, waiting to see you falter. When rebellion broke out and your husband fell to a traitor's hand, you did not shed a tear or collapse in grief. You donned your battle cloak and mounted your horse. You gathered what loyal ones remained, issued orders, held a sword, not a mourning veil. You knew he would come, not as a father, but as a sovereign whose name stirred fear across the steppes. His arrival was a storm, sudden, fierce, merciless. He was ready to erase all who had stained the oath, even if they were children crying from fear, not guilt. But you stood before him, not as his blood, but as the boundary between wrath and justice. You did not kneel. You did not plead. You said, "Punish the hand that betrayed, but spare the hearts that tremble in fear." And he listened, he whose rage was lawless, he whom even gods did not deny. Then you knew you were not merely his blood. You were his counterweight, his temperance, his reason in the body of a woman. He gave you the south, not as consolation, but as burden, dry lands, ragged winds, eyes awaiting command, and you became their master. From your voice came caravans, from your words alliances. In your presence, elders forgot how to speak. But when night fell upon the tents and the fires faded into silent ash, you remembered the one whose name was never loud, yet echoed within you like the call of lineage. Berta, a mother whose silence weighed more than the words of any counsel. She did not instruct, nor pierce with her gaze, but in her presence all found alignment, as if drawn to an unseen axis. Her patience became your anchor, her straight back, your unseen armor. You are not an ornament to a throne, not a name written beside a husband. You are the thread between will and power, between memory and what must still come. You are Alakai Behi. You are the daughter of Borta. You are the blood of Genghis Khan. In your veins flows the same blood that once raised thousands of tents and brought nations to their knees. You ask for no recognition. You carry a strength that does not speak, because it doesn't need to. You have no shadow of doubt, for you were raised under a gaze that never forgave weakness, and beneath the silent tutelage of a woman whose quiet commanded more than any decree. You do not kneel. You stand on the border where the will of one soul can redraw the map of the world. There is no cry in you, but there is a step that makes the earth remember. And in this morning wind, in the silence between heartbeats, in the watching eyes behind tent flaps, everything reminds the world. You are not just part of a bloodline. You are its continuation. You are its hope that the name once spoken in the steppes will not become echo, but future.